Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about the percent proportion. So in order to explain what the percent proportion is, we need to think about the following questions. What is 1/2 written as a percent? If we think of a half, we think of 50%, which we can write as 50 over 100. Now if you notice, this right here is a proportion, right? Two equivalent ratios. It might look a little funny though because you're used to seeing it where we have maybe a variable somewhere, like this. So what we can do is we can use this type of proportion in order to find a missing piece. Like if I had the fraction 1/2 and I didn't know what it was as a percent, I could set it up where I wrote 1/2 equals what out of 100 and then use the skills that I know about solving a proportion. 100 times 1 is 100. Divided by 2 is 50. We already knew that it was 50% because that's what a half is, but we can use a proportion to find out missing pieces of that proportion. The second example says, what is 75% written as a fraction? Well, 75% is 3/4. However, let's say that we didn't know what this number was. So let's say that the question was 75%. What is that written as a fraction? 3 out of what? If you're not sure what that denominator would be, you could set up a proportion where you have 3 over what is equal to 75 out of 100. And then when you go through the process of solving 100 times 3 divided by 75, that's going to go ahead and give us the missing piece. So a percent proportion is kind of nice because you can answer any type of question that deals with fractions and percents by using it. So in a percent proportion, one ratio compares part of the quantity to the whole quantity, also called the base, as a fraction. So this is the example that we just looked at on the previous screen. We have 3 is the part over 4 is the whole. Think of that pie that has 4 pieces. We're looking at 3 of the pieces out of 4 total. So we say 3 is the part and 4 is the whole. The other ratio is the equivalent percent written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So 3/4 we know is 75%, which would be 75 out of 100. Another way that you'll see the percent proportion is written like this. We have the part over the whole equals the percent over 100. Some key words that we want to look for in some of these problems we're going to do is the is and the of. This designates our part and our whole. So what part is of the whole? So in your notebook, go ahead and write down this percent proportion. Pause the video and do that, and then play the video to continue. Okay, so now we're going to use the percent proportion in order to solve some of these problems. So the first question says 16 is what percent of 500? So we know we're dealing with fractions and we know that we're dealing with percents, and so what we need to do is set up our proportion. So we know that there's always going to be half of the fraction or half of the proportion is going to have to be a percent over 100. Now in this question, do they tell us a percentage? No, because here in the middle it says what percent. That doesn't mean that we know the percent. It means that's what we're looking for. So we're going to put the x over 100 because see, the percent goes over 100 all the time. The other part though is we need to figure out what this fraction is. So what we can do is we can use our key words is and of to figure out what goes where. We're looking at the fraction 16 is what percent of 500. So remember, of is the whole. So our fraction is 16 out of 500. Now we need to use our skills of solving proportions. We're going to multiply 100 by 16 and divide by 500. This is going to give us a percent of 3.2. So the fraction 16/500ths, that's really 3 2/10%. All right, let's go ahead and try setting up the next one. We have 234 is 6%, 36% of what number? Again, let's start with our percent over 100. So if I look at my statement, I see in this one I do have a percent. It says 36%. So since percents are always out of 100, we put 36 over 100, and then we look for the rest of our fraction for the other half of the proportion. So the other half of our proportion, it says 234 is 36% of what number? So we don't know what the whole is on this problem. So here's our proportion. Go ahead and solve for the denominator of our fraction. And for this problem, you should get 650. All right, let's go ahead and try a couple more. Now, if you haven't written anything down yet, now is the time to do so. Go ahead and set up a proportion for this first problem. We'll fill in the numbers together, and then you can go ahead and calculate it. So draw your proportion. And now the first step is we want to go ahead and look for a percent. In this problem, we have 27%. So go ahead and put 27 over 100. And then we need to look for our fraction. It says what is and of 320. So that means our numerator is going to be our x, and we're looking for the whole of 320. All right, so pause the video, go ahead and solve your proportion, and let's see what you get. And hopefully you got 86.4. This is not a percent answer though, because remember we were just looking for the numerator of our fraction. All right, let's go ahead and try the next one. Find your percent and put it over 100. Since it says 33 1/3, it's kind of hard to do that on a calculator sometime, so I would recommend just listing out some digits after the 33. 1/3 is 0.3 repeating, so let's just put some 3's here. That's what you're going to put over your 100. And then let's go ahead and set up the fraction on the other side. We have 456 out of what number? So 456 out of x. We want to know what is the total. When I go ahead and type this in my calculator, I get an answer of approximately 1,368. So that would be our denominator for this problem. All right, now it's your turn to practice. Go ahead and pause the video, do the following couple problems, and then play the video to check your answers. All right, let's see how you did. So first of all, looking for our percent. We don't know what the percent is on this one, so we're going to put x over 100. Our fraction, 92 over 86. Once we do the calculation, this is going to give us an answer, a rounded answer of 107%. All right, let's check the next one. First, looking for the percent, 18%, so that's 18 out of 100. My fraction, 2.52 out of x. Once I go ahead and do my calculation, I'm going to get 14. So the denominator where the x would be is 14. Nice job, that's the percent proportion.